told you earlier, Mitt Romney is in London. He's kicking off that overseas trip of several countries. When it comes to foreign policy, new poll, Wall Street Journal, NBC poll, shows that President Obama is leading Mitt Romney when it comes to who would better handle those issues, 47% to 43%, rather 32%. That brings us to Congressman Mike Rogers of Michigan. He's a supporter of Governor Romney's, has advised the campaign on foreign policy. He's also the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. It's nice to see you, sir. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Let's talk a little bit about this foreign tour. Can a foreign tour turn around a foreign policy impression? In the poll that I just showed a moment ago, you can see that the former governor is a little bit behind the president when it comes to impression of foreign policy credentials, let's say.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very important for the American people to see that Mitt Romney can have a dialogue on the world stage in some very serious strategic partnerships. Great Britain, there's really no better partner that we have, and the Australians and Canadians certainly rank right up there. But you talk about Israel and you talk about Poland, all very, very strategic, important partnerships for the United States. And by the way, all of those relationships have been strained by some, I think, missteps by this administration. And I think having him there, having him have that dialogue with senior leaders of all of those countries at a time where there are challenges in all three countries is very important for the American public to see. Mitt Romney can handle the job as president when it comes to foreign policy. Strategic
and important, as you say, but I think that many critics have said kind of short on the details so far. At the VFW, before he left on his trip, he mentioned Syria, but it was really pretty much in passing. He was pretty vague when it came to comments on Iran. In London, he was talking about the Olympics and the weather and dressage with Tony Blair. Here's what he told Brian Williams when they started talking about Israel.
With regards to any nation that feels its security is at risk, that they should have a firm conviction that America is securely behind them. And I hope the people of Israel feel that.
Do you think that's a fair criticism, that he's been painting with a very broad brush and it's been pretty light on the specifics so far?
Well, I do, and I think he's respectful of what are very delicate circumstances, and you need that in foreign policy debates. But what he is referring to is the fact that Israel doesn't believe that the United States is fully behind their notion that they're going to do everything to stop a nuclear program, and more importantly, neither does Iran. And because of that confusion, because of that lack of assertion of U.S. leadership, there have been some problems there with us slowing down the nuclear program. So I thought Mitt Romney was exactly right. He was reinforcing the point that this is the time for serious and strong leadership. And, you know, the president does not talk about foreign policy often, if hardly at all, and that lack of leadership on the world stage has consequences. And I think what Mitt Romney was referring to is some of those consequences for not showing U.S. leadership, including the ability to maybe even avert Israel from bombing Iran. And all of that is at stake and in play, and I think he is being exactly respectful as not the President of the United States, but somebody who I think is trying to say we'll have a more certain, a more committed policy to making sure that Iran and Israel both believe that we're serious about Iran not having a nuclear weapon program.
As I'm sure you know, every time there is some kind of mass shooting and some kind of tragedy, the conversation turns to gun control, and this time after what happened in Aurora is no different. This is what Mitt Romney has said about the Second Amendment. He said he believes in the Second Amendment. He thinks new laws wouldn't make a difference, and then went on to say this about his, hearts need to be changed. Listen.
We can sometimes hope that just changing a law will make all bad things go away. It won't. Changing the heart of the American people may well be what's essential to improve the lots of the American people.
What does that mean in the context of gun control, change the hearts of the American people, when you look at the person who is alleged to have pulled off this crime and now is going to face trial for it? It seems, I wasn't sure what he meant.
Well, I think he's talking about the broader problem. We have seen a surge in violent crime in our cities. Gang crime is up just in the city of Chicago alone, and about a weekend or two ago, 35 murders. And there are things that we can do. Trying to point to one incident and one type of weapon isn't going to solve this problem. Matter of fact, it was against the law to have a weapon in the movie theater. Colorado has very strict gun laws. So we have two things here. How do we get after the violent crime that's happening in American cities today, a huge rise, and how do you deal with mentally ill individuals who are expressing themselves that they're going to commit this crime? those are two things, and we saw this in the Gabrielle Gifford case, those are two things I think that we can have some impact on. You want to intercede with the mentally ill early in that treatment and allow counselors to talk to police when they're making those kinds of threats.
And why not challenge gun laws at the same time? I mean, I would agree with that. I would say, yes, absolutely, this is an issue that needs to be confronted on a lot of fronts, and wouldn't one of them be, let's not sell AR-15 so that a guy can order it online easily and have it delivered to his apartment?
Yeah, but Soledad, that's not what killed those individuals in the movie theater. That weapon didn't even function correctly, and so that's the trick, and that's what I think is dangerous about saying this type of weapon we don't like. If we focus all our energy on that, the problem will go away. That's not the problem. He was determined to kill people, and he had plenty of weapons on him when he walked into that movie theater, which was against the law already. It was against the law the way he purchased some of these weapons. It was already against the law. So we ought to abandon that, which I think is a false red herring, and start dealing with the issue of how would we have interceded on that individual. And by the way, Mr. President, you have lots of resources to help these urban centers start cracking down on what has been a rampant murder spree by street gangs in Chicago and Los Angeles and New York and other places. And he's not. Here's my point, Soledad. He wants you to focus on this one slice of it. There is a huge problem out there of which this president has resources to deal with. Let's deal with those things. Let's start dealing with the issues that are taking these folks off of the street before they find some way to kill a whole bunch of people.
Let's deal with specifically what Mitt Romney said, which is what I'm trying to dig into, which is he said changing the hearts of American people. So don't worry about the gun laws. Bringing the gun into the movie theater was legal anyway, but if we could just change people's hearts, that's a better strategy. I'm confused by that.
Well, I just think what he's talking about is, listen, this pervasive attitude that anything goes and everything is okay, I think is having a toll, certainly on American decisions that are being made. Street gangs going wild in the city.
How would that make a difference in a shooting that took the lives of 12 people and injured 58 others? I guess I'm just trying to connect what he's saying to this particular Aurora shooting.
I think you're focused on the wrong end of that conversation. I think he was basically trying to say, listen, there are things that we can do to intercede. You could intercede early, and somebody who has these mental health issues who is clearly reaching out, trying to say, hey, I'm going to do this, somebody help me. That didn't happen. So that's how you stop something like that. And what he's saying is, listen, if we turn around urban employment in this country, I think it has a major impact on what's happening in the streets of places like Chicago and Los Angeles and other places where violent crime, Soledad, is just going through the roof. And we're not paying attention to it. We're trying to say, well, if we change the gun law, I got to tell you, nobody believes that you can have another gun law in Colorado or Chicago, which has very strict gun laws. That's not going to solve the problem. Let's focus on solving the problem. And I think that's what Mitt Romney was talking about. This is a holistic approach to getting at these problems. One of them is got to get people back to work. When he's talking about turning their hearts, I think he's trying to say, hey, we need to change the way people think about this anything goes violent mentality. And all of those things can be impacted with the right leadership.
Well, Congressman Mike Rogers, nice to see you, sir. Thanks for talking with us. He's the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. And one thing I just want to clarify, you mentioned that this is I think you're referring to a young man who's clearly reaching out in mental health issues, and I know you know that none of that yet has actually been determined. We're still waiting to get information from both the attorneys and mental health officials, so I would not want to...
mailed the package. I think that was a clear sign, at least one clear sign that he was reaching out as an old investigator.
Unclear exactly what's in that, so I just don't want to go out on a limb and say things that we have not confirmed were in that package, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you for your time that we've
Thanks,
appreciate it. You bet.